Ladies and gentlemen, good news! The EFF's been fired.
It's almost like Donald Trump is the president of South Africa because all those dirty commies in power all over Gauteng and in Durban are starting to lose their jobs. Not slowly by any means, but very, very quickly.
Yeah, you see, so what actually happened in the last municipal elections is that the DA governed a number of metropolitans, and that didn't last for very long because ANC were like super jail. And as a result, they went off and did all these like infighting. You may recall it was a giant circus. We did numerous videos on it. And the upshot of it was that the ANC and the EFF went into co-partnership, whereby they basically co-governed the crap out of the municipalities. I say the crap because they drove them into the sea. They literally destroyed them. Well, it appears that the coalitions have now fallen apart. And they're going to shit. And everybody's getting fired. All of the EFF guys have been told to footsack. Hey, and all of the coalitions that were there are no more. What do you think, Ramon?
Indeed, it's almost like, the ANC knows that these things aren't working, but they will just keep them around because they can't make decisions, which is, of course, a hallmark of the ANC under Cyril Ramaphosa. But now that push comes to shove, and now that the EFF is no longer useful at all to the ANC, they are actually taking actions and removing the worst elements of these coalitions. So as far as I know, and my sources say, whatever happens on the national level will happen on the provincial level as well. So for example, if there is an ANC-DA-IFP coalition at a national level, there will be one in Gauteng, there will be one in KwaZulu-Natal, and there will be one where that paradigm works. Of course, there won't be one in the Eastern Cape because everyone votes ANC there. So what that means is they want to kick out everyone who isn't part of the national coalition out of the provincial one as well. So that means the EFF is going to be left with sweet nothing, which is not a bad thing.
No, it's not. But you see, the problem is in places like Ekurhuleni, where the EFF were basically in charge of finances, they're broke. Like proper broke. Nothing works. Nothing's been fixed. They have no water, no service delivery. The EFF guy, the MMC who's responsible for finance, he's got himself a new Slay Queen, a couple new cars. It's all very EFF-ish, but it's not very good when it comes through to elections. And the ANC's just found that out, haven't they? 40%? See, it turns out, if you actually take the electorate for mugs, you lose power. And so now the ANC are thinking, maybe these aren't the best guys to partner with. Maybe we need to think of something where, we won't have egg constantly on our face. You see, the ANC is waking up to one fact that most corporates understand. When it's my name above the door and my employees screw up, it reflects on me because it's my name above the door. And in many instances, that's exactly what's happened. ANC governed coalitions have all fallen apart because the EFF have taken it for advantage. And now the electorate are taking out their frustrations, not on the EFF, but on the ANC.
Correct, and it's a big egg in the face of Panyaza Lesufi. So Lesufi was the one guy who put these coalitions together in Johannesburg and at Ekurhuleni. He is, or was, or may still be the premier of Gauteng. And this guy is the master of the publicity stunt and the master of doing literally nothing else. He has taken funding away from orphanages and old age homes and, institutions of care and funneled it to bullshit things like his own little private militia with the crime wardens and things like that. And then he ended e-tolls. He even filmed the whole thing when he ended e-tolls and he did a little dance as if like his party wasn't responsible for doing it. As I keep saying, the average South African understands what's going on and they saw this guy as an idiot because he is an idiot. And now he has suffered the consequences of his actions. ANC is down to 35% in Gauteng. That's no longer a majority. You can't just be a puss forever. There are consequences, and these are them.
But he had a plan. You see, the plan was he would partner with the EFF, and that's why he did his whole EFF coalition in Johannesburg and all the other places, because he was like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to get used to working together. I have a plan. And then he screwed up, because the EFF and him didn't get enough to secure the vote to actually go into coalition in the first place, and they were still under 50% with the two of them. So he was like, crap, now what? And now what is exactly the question? Because a lot of these stupid dumbass planning, which they had put in place in order to secure power until Jesus comes back, Jesus came back. And unfortunately, he's judging all the coalitions for what exactly they have done. And what they've done is absolutely fuck everything up. And I mean royally fuck everything up. So now what?
Well, now the ANC are in a bind, so even they have screwed up royally, because in Durban, which is the correct name of the city, their mayor, who basically just sings, goes to church services and lies about the budget, he's been recalled as the Durban mayor because Durban is a shithole, as Donald Trump would say, and therefore now he's back in the sort of National Council of Provinces as a councillor somewhere. So he's actually been fired, but he's been given a better job, because if you're a councillor proportionality-wise in the National Council of Provinces, you literally do nothing. You're literally paid to do absolutely nothing. So, yeah, you do fail sideways in the ANC. But what annoys me, but it shouldn't really annoy me, but what we can understand and learn from the story is that the ANC knows very well where it screws up, but refuses to actually do anything about it until they lose power. What does that say about the ANC, though?
Yeah, and this entire election have shown us just that. You may recall that we did a video a couple of days ago around the whole coalition prospects. There was a document that circulated, which was real, but it wasn't real because, trust me, bro. And if you actually read the document, it showed an acute level of self-understanding as to where they were. The ANC knows very well what they're screwing up on. They know very well how to fix it. But this entire election has shown something, and that is, to a large degree, they just don't want to. It's not that they don't know. And that in itself is interesting for us as the electorate and as members of the public to actually understand. For the longest time, we assumed it was just dumb. Like, how could you not know this? Well, it turns out they do. They're just lazy in terms of their implementation. And this entire election has shown us that. And it turns out that the only thing you need to do to get the ANC to actually not be a bunch of lazy bastards is vote them out. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, crap, better do some stuff, because we don't have a job. If only the electorate knew this before the ANC just took them all for a bunch of mugs.
Indeed, that is the case. So what lies ahead? So if this national unity government of the IFP, the DA, and the ANC comes together, I think, to me, the IFP and the DA will do a lot of the heavy lifting. The ANC will still sort of be coasting around because they lack the capacity and intellect to do anything else. And the biggest fear people have is that the ANC will take over the DA or eat up the IFP. But I think the opposite will happen. I think the DA and the IFP can actually destroy the ANC in time to come. So that's maybe the upshot of all of this.
Yes, and I think we should really be clear as to what we mean by destroy the ANC. Will it mean that the ANC no longer exists, that to disband the ANC and it's just put on the scrap heap of history? No. And if you believe that, you're dumb. What it will do is it has the opportunity to basically change ANC ideology by partnering with it. You see, the biggest problem that the ANC has right now is that the alliance partners basically whisper like the devil in their ear, going, white racists and apartheid and communism, socialism. And you see, when you actually have to work with your enemies, ideological enemies, nothing more than that, and you realize, oh, look, they're not enemies of the gulag, you start to soften to them. And when you realize that you're both working for the best interest of the country and your constituencies, and you actually see the result of that, all of a sudden, their social demeanor, their ideology tends to melt away. What you may find is that we start seeing a more, and I hate the word, Ramon, I hate it. What you see is you start seeing a more liberal ANC, a more tolerant ANC, a less black nationalist communist ANC. And that in itself would destroy the ANC's genetic makeup, because it's not who the ANC are naturally. Effectively, it would be, like giving the ANC a new degree of life, ideological life. They'd be born again. And in being born again, they wouldn't conserve what came before. They wouldn't concern the communism and the state capture and the real hardcore racism, which they have had in the past. And that in itself would mean the ANC would die. Not completely dead, right? But it would mean that their ideology and the way that they frame themselves would die. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Not in the slightest. For the ANC to live, it had to lose a general election, which has happened. And when you're in competition on equal footing with everyone else and not in charge anymore, you have to adapt. And that adaptation means less communism, less grifting, less corruption, hopefully more giving to the people of South Africa because it is your duty as a politician to do that. This sounds extremely naive and utopian, and I agree with you. I don't think the ANC will be saved at all, but perhaps we can live in hope.
And for those of you who want to actually be white-pilled and go, you two whiteys don't know what you're talking about, bloody European agents. The ANC and the Freedom Front Plus are partnering in the Northern Cape. Who ever thought they'd see that? Freedom Front Plus and the ANC in a coalition.